Yay.
Yay.
Well, welcome to my very first podcast, Survival Chicks. And I'm super excited to have my brand new friend, Kim Bergen, on with us today. And she is a homesteader. She is a fairly new homesteader. So I'm super excited to listen to all of her challenges and why she's doing what she's doing and how she ended up being a new homesteader. Good morning, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Renee?
Good. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm excited.
Yay. I'm excited too. So tell me about why you were living in BC.
Yep.
And you just decided to sell. What made you sell? I saw a little for sale picture of your house that had beautiful mountains in the background. I was assuming you were somewhere in Squamish or Pemberton.
Squamish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that view was in from my backyard was
gorgeous.
Yeah. And
you
honestly,
were like,
it's one of the biggest things I miss from BC.
The mountains.
It's the mountains. Yeah. Yeah. So
and you were
we
like,
have
I'm
ocean.
out of here. Yeah. The ocean's good.
Well, I'm from Saskatchewan originally.
Oh, so, are you?
Yeah, born and raised in Saskatchewan until I was 14.
Well, my papa's from Saskatchewan.
Oh.
So I spent all my summers and whatnot there. My cousins were all there.
Oh, so where in Saskatchewan?
Well, a big town called Duck Lake.
Oh, Duck Lake. I don't exactly know where that is.
Have you heard of it?
A lot of small towns. No. Okay. Where is it close to?
Close-ish to it's about an hour out of Saskatoon.
Which
and
direction?
It's about, I'm gonna say like maybe 30 minutes out of PA.
Oh yes, then I have heard of Duck Lake.
Yes.
Yeah, no, my mom is from a small town called Marceline, which is close to Duck Lake.
Oh yes. Yes, I know of it. So Duck Lake has like less people residing in it the last time I checked than my high school. Wow. Yeah, and my high school was small. So yeah. It's good. Small towns are fun. It taught me a lot of things.
Yes.
But you came from a bigger town.
Yeah, I was from Saskatoon. I was born in Saskatoon.
Straight in Saskatoon. All right. Big city girl. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but both my parents were from farming communities around Saskatoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
okay, great.
It's in my blood.
It's in there. Yeah. You brought it back.
I did.
Brought it back full circle. So in Squamish, what were you doing there?
So I actually had my own holistic dental hygiene business in West Vancouver.
I'm looking for one of those right now.
Hard to find. I got a lot of people looking for holistic dentists all the time.
Really?
And I can't find that very easily. So I know there's one in Vancouver.
Okay.
And I've just heard mixed messages about it. But last time I was in Vancouver, my good friends, they're happy there. So that's good. Okay. But yeah, so I had a holistic dental hygiene business. It was about I started in 2018, I think, in the summer. And I had my very, very busiest week, the week before we got locked down. So, it takes a time to grow a business like that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm super grateful because I do have a lot of people who have been very loyal and have followed me for years, like 20 years.
Wow.
Because I've been a hygienist for over 25. And so it was great. I had that to start, but it still is like, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to build a business. And so I feel the lesson there is patience and faith.
Okay.
So
patience and faith.
Yeah. And and then like I said, I had my busiest week and then I was shut down. And
how long did that last?
I was shut down. Well, we were early because I was at the dental conference where the dentist was that had COVID. And
what, like the first person?
Like really early on. And so everybody who was at the conference couldn't go to work the following week.
Oh, okay.
Or like, I don't know. It was soon after that, but it was like ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was, and at first I was like, oh, snow day,
Yeah.
the first
Everybody,
week or two.
everybody
You're
can
like,
use a snow day
right.
or
But
week.
then, yeah, well, 2 weeks, right? To flatten the curve.
2 weeks. We're still flattening the curve, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. So anyways, after 2 weeks, I was like, not happy, really not happy. And a few of my, networking groups, we did some online, I think I did an online thing, and I bawled my eyes out because I was like, you're struggling to make enough money and then you're shut down.
Yeah. And you own your own business. You're not getting any EI at this point. There's no, there's nobody paying you for sitting on your butt on the couch.
No. So, yeah.
So it starts to not be fun.
No. And, luckily I mean, I never felt like that was the answer ever. Like I was never afraid. I never wanted to ever wear a mask. I'm like, God made this face with this nose to breathe properly. And, I know from university and working in the industry of wearing masks that a mask does not stop a virus. So I didn't get that. Right. I never understood that. And I would rather breathe fresh air than my recycled CO2.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And so this lasted for some time. Is this one of the main reasons why you decided to sell your home or sell your practice, or you didn't kind of really sell your practice?
Well, so first of all, so then we got back to work, and I'm grateful. Like my first week back was as busy, like it was my busiest week going back. So that was really wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was really great because I am the only person in the office. So, if people were afraid, right, there's nobody else. It's just me.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I did attract a lot of people who had the same views, right? I mean, we do. People who are looking for more natural, they found me and they had the same views that I did. So it was really great. And, but then, as time went on and you're starting to learn about why this is all happening, who many people would call conspiracy theories, just to me made a lot of sense because I never, ever understood why you would force this injection on people. I mean, I'm a firm believer in my body, my choice.
Well, it's unconstitutional. It says directly in our constitution that Canada could never force anybody to have a vaccination of any type. So there's that.
To keep your job.
Well, for any reason.
Right, exactly. Well, some people are like, well, you have a choice. Like, yeah, okay.
Super great choice.
Yeah, exactly. So, so as you're learning, we just felt it was not a good time to have debt. And, both Dave and I had big debts in our businesses, and we had big debts. Like we had our primary home, and then we had, my in-laws were, we went in on a condo together. So we all had big debt. And I'm like, I don't want to be in debt when
mortgages and business stuff.
When all the rates go up, right? I mean, that was a conspiracy, but look at that.
Wow, you guys are smart.
Yeah.
So when did you sell your home?
So the biggest thing, I mean, my husband is a long haul truck driver.
Right.
So he couldn't cross the border.
Yeah.
And he's a cowboy, right? Like he's a drifter. So he was always saying, let's move. Like he's just always been that way. And I have a daughter. So she graduated in 2021. So that summer, we had been open like a year, right? I guess a year.
Yeah.
Since we were in lockdown. And so then I was like, my daughter's going away to school. I actually don't need to be here. Right. And I saw this message on social media that said, now is the time to move. And if you don't move, then you'll stay where you are. if you don't move now.
Oh, isn't that
And that
interesting?
just really spoke to me.
I
And
got some shivers.
I was awake all night long with that message.
Oh,
Because it was just all piecing together. I'm like, well, I don't need to stay here anymore. You know, my daughter's
yeah.
18, she's going away to school.
And where's she going away to?
Oh, she's actually in Nova Scotia. She's in Dalhousie. So one of the reasons, like, I brought her out here, we started looking at houses and house prices. But anyways, I'm getting ahead. So here we are. I phoned my husband the next morning because he's not home. I'm like, so obviously it wasn't mandatory yet. And I said, I think we should sell the house. And he was like totally freaked out. He went completely the other way because he was not expecting me to do that. It was like, whoa, what? Even though he'd wanted to do that for so long, he wasn't prepared for that.
That's so funny, hey?
I know. Yeah. But, give him a couple hours and he was on board.
Yeah. Sometimes I find it when it's like I'm the one who's like, okay, let's go, let's do this. And then I have to convince the other person, right? So I usually have to convince the boyfriend. I'm like, okay. And then I take time with him and I like smooth it over. And by that time, like, I'm convinced myself. But if he's like, hey, let's do this, I'm like, well, I don't know. It's not like I'm not the one being spontaneous here. This is weird.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Right.
Give me a minute.
Exactly. So he was like, okay, let's do it. And I mean,
cool.
We put it up for sale. It wasn't super fast. It was probably,
and that was in 2021.
Yeah, May 2021. And we moved out of the house September. So
okay. Yeah,
which was perfect. I took McKenna to Nova Scotia. And then I came back and we packed up the house. And like, we pretty much sold most things. We bought 2 sea cans and filled up the stuff that we didn't want to get rid of.
Okay.
Even though we didn't really know what we were doing.
No.
I mean, we bought a travel trailer.
Nice.
And we knew we were going to drive across Canada to see McKenna and maybe stay for Christmas or whatever. I mean, we thought Florida, maybe. We didn't know. I mean, we even thought about like making Dave's truck super tricked out so that I could just go with him. Right?
Yeah.
But we also felt like being self-sustaining seemed like a good idea. So that was always there in the back of our head, like having a homestead where we could be self-sustaining. And so when we came here and we took 2 weeks to cross, which of course is like, it was October. So we had to get across before it got really frozen. And it's interesting about here, fall in Nova Scotia lasts until late into November.
Okay.
So it was hard to find campgrounds that were open. Like we closed out a couple campgrounds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, pipes are going to freeze. Like we can't have the campground open. So there was a bit of a time crunch to like, okay, are we going to find something? And so we found a realtor right away and we started looking. We actually found this like 20-acre old farm, like 100-year-old farm. It had like a huge blacksmith house and a huge old barn, an old house. It was super cool. It was on a lake.
Wow.
We put an offer in on that for $400,000 for 20 acres on a lake.
Yeah. So those of us still residing in BC go, what?
Yeah. So
when am I moving?
Yeah, exactly. But it's been pretty crazy here in Nova Scotia. A lot of people came here from Ontario, Alberta, and BC. Yep.
Really?
Yeah. And so there were 3 offers on that house. And one of them was a fellow from BC. And so we thought, well, we'll just keep looking because we don't know if we're going to get it, right? So we went and looked at a house about 10 minutes from the house that we found. And it was weird. And we're like, no. And we left our realtor. We drove down the highway and we saw a for sale sign. So we pull in because we could tell there's nobody there. So nobody had been in the house through all of COVID. The owner is from Spain.
Oh my gosh.
So it was empty. And so we pull in, we phone our realtor, can we look at the place? And she phones and she's like, yeah, I can get you in. I'm like, great. So we're like walking around the property. So here's about over 11 acres right on the ocean.
So great. So
I mean,
great.
so amazing. And yeah,
That's it.
I mean,
You fell in love.
it was totally meant to be. And weirdly, there was a whole schmozzle. There was another offer. His realtor was really sly and didn't want us to buy the house because he was selling the other people's house. So he was trying to double dip. So anyways, in the meantime, I met friends of the owner and I said, you know, we put an offer in the house. The first one was low. So the next one was 555 for 11 acres,
Yeah.
a 4,000 square foot house, a huge 2-car
4,000?
garage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. I've never lived in a house like this my whole entire life. It's like a huge Cape Cod.
So great.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, the lady who was the friend of the fellow from Spain, I said, oh, the realtor said we can't get a hold of him. He's away until after the weekend. And she's like, well, that's not true. I'm in touch with him right now.
Okay.
So anyway, she helped us get in touch with him directly. We like bypassed his realtor because he was so sly. And yeah, so it was meant to be. And here we are. It's like, it was a year in December. So
year in December.
So
okay.
it's been a year and like 4 months.
Well, I think that you guys have done tremendous gains in that year and 4 months. I think I've seen some of the stuff that you post on Instagram and wow, you guys have built a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So
cool.
Yeah, I think the first thing we got was a farm dog.
Yes.
So she came in last January and then we started the greenhouse last March, probably.
The greenhouse is so cool. I have to describe it a little bit. I have been, we had to build our own greenhouse and we ended up going with a hoop house because it was easy and effective and quick and cheap, super cheap. But my original thought was, let's make a greenhouse out of old windows. And the boyfriend's like, no. And I'm like, what? But so this is the thing that I have to like plant the seed and I have to massage it a little bit. And then all of a sudden one day he'll be like, you know what we should do? We should build a greenhouse out of windows. And I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So right now he's been like, no. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, because they're all different. You got to get all the same sizes. And, and then he'd hate it if he heard me talking in this voice.
Well, he's going to see it.
Yeah. Is that what I sound like to you?
A voice for a man.
Is that what I sound like? Anyway, so he's like, no, it's going to be too expensive. We have to go get those windows and there's going to be different sizes and it's going to look really cheap and we can't do it. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I saw yours and I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous for one. I don't know how Dave builds cool stuff like that, but it's like this like tall face of beautiful windows. It's super tall on the front, right?
Yeah, on the one
how
side.
Tall?
Yeah. It must be 12 feet. I think we have 12 feet, 2x4s.
It's got to be at least 12 feet. Yeah.
I think that the high side is 12 and the short side is 8. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Super cool. So now that he's seen it, he's like, oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And it's true. Nice. It's true. All different size windows are a pain in the butt.
Sure. I get it. Sure. It'll take a while. Let's just say the project will take a little longer than the hoop house, which took a while.
So he was great. Like he did it as a puzzle, like in the garage, like each sort of segment. So however many, and then he would put them in. And then he would put a frame extra 2x4 around the ones that were a little bit smaller. Yeah. So, and out the back, which of course is the good view of the water, we have really big ones. So
big windows.
Yeah. So you can see, the water and the view.
Wow. It's gorgeous. And then you guys have created these beautiful garden beds.
Yeah. We built like 11 raised beds.
11?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there were no gardens here, right?
Okay, so the house was just had no,
So
it wasn't a homestead.
No, it was the fellow from Spain, from what I understand, was very wealthy. And he loved coming here. And I mean, obviously in Spain, they don't get wood the same way that we get here. So the house, like there is not a piece of MDF in this house. Okay. Everything, like, so actually this part that I'm sitting in right now is the 100-year-old house.
Oh, wow.
But the big extension is like 11 to 13 years old. I can't remember how old it is.
Okay.
So, and the way he's built it, he didn't even want to have studs. So everything underneath the drywall is 1 inch thick wood.
Wow.
Not plywood, like 1 inch shiplap. So you can put a nail in anywhere.
Oh,
and there's a board underneath
joyous.
the drywall. Well, this is what the rich and famous do, I guess.
Well, actually, I say joyous, but what's funny is we are replacing the walls in our big cabin right now. I'm in my nice little cabin with grandma's wallpaper.
Yeah, nice wallpaper. Yeah.
And and the big one is just completely stripped out. So the walls, we took all the walls down, and then the perimeter walls, we just stripped them so we could see what was behind, because there was a lot of garbage behind there, and we're surprised it's still standing and hasn't gone up in flames at some point. Anyway. And so we have replaced, instead of bringing in drywall, which is like really cumbersome and very heavy, and we've got everything, we have to bring everything in by boat. And so making it even more difficult, especially if it's raining or something. And we've got a tiny little boat, and then we've got to rent a boat. So I was like, why don't we just use plywood? So we're actually putting all the walls in plywood, Nova Ply first, and all the ceilings are going to be like TNG or something like that. And so to your point, actually, I could go and nail in anything anywhere, because it's all going to be wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll be handy.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing, like there's, like, if you look at this, like this is all a built-in shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And like he has one over there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And do you think he built that all himself?
Well, we know, so the friends who I was telling you about, he's a cabinet maker. He's a kitchen maker.
Oh,
so they had a very close relationship. And so he would just come and help him with all of these projects. Cool. I mean, there's tables all throughout the house that are solid and can barely lift.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like it's got some really nice finishes. And yet there was not one light fixture in the whole house. Like we had to replace they were just light bulbs. So here's this beautiful house.
Isn't that strange?
And everything was a light bulb. Like, I think he was very eccentric. Like he would get on a project and then he wouldn't quite finish a project. Right. Yeah. So this was all a big project for him.
Right. Yes.
That never really ever got finished.
Right. And he doesn't live here. So.
Yeah. So he's here, maybe 5 months out of the year. So, yeah. So, I mean, so that was cool because we could put the fixtures we wanted in. And there was only one mirror in the house and it was about this big. So he didn't need to look at himself, I guess.
That's funny.
But we had to put mirrors in. Right, in the bathrooms.
Yeah, like absolutely.
So that was, I mean, that's fun stuff, but the outside stuff has been a lot. So we have chickens.
Yeah. How many chickens do you have?
We have 6 chickens.
6. Okay.
Yeah. But
he built a cool coop as well.
Well, so I'll tell you about that because he was pretty tired after the greenhouse. So there's a great company based out of Kelowna called Good to Go.
Yes, I know them.
That's where we got the coop from. So it was prefab.
Okay.
So we had to put it together, but it was all the walls and everything was.
And they just shipped it?
Yep.
Whoa.
I know.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because we're about to build a chicken coop right now, actually. I have a friend on the mainland and she is going to be hatching her chicks like tomorrow. And she's
Ooh.
like, I can hold on to them for a couple weeks. They're going to be in the garage. And then after that, you got to come get them. And I'm like, okay. So we've had 5 weeks.
So he's on board now.
Yeah, he wasn't on board with the chickens
I
before.
know.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
just a little bit of massaging,
Yeah.
a little bit of marination. I got to
Yeah.
let it sit and simmer for a
I
while.
mean, we have 5 dozen eggs right now.
Yeah, well, we have ducks. So
Yeah, 2
generally
ducks,
speaking,
but you had a couple a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seems to be pretty, sometimes it's irregular. Sometimes she'll give us like 5 in 3 days, and then sometimes she doesn't give us any for a week. It's a bit strange. But anyways.
Oh, right. So you only have 1 female.
1 female. So we're getting more ducks, but that's a process too. We got to build a bigger coop and whatever, bigger little pen.
Right.
And
it's nonstop.
They almost got eaten by my friend's dog yesterday because they were out in the open. And we let them cruise around the yard now. And we didn't clip their wings because if there is a predator or something, like, let them fly. I don't know. I've never had animals like that before, but I feel so bad to cut an animal's wings.
We had 6 ducks.
Yes.
I guess we had 4 ducks. We had 4 ducks and we didn't clip their wings, but they weren't flying except for the one who got away. So we lost 3.
Yes.
And fox or weasel, not sure.
Right. So you lost 3, but one of them flew away.
No, so one was able to get away, but stayed, right? So stayed here. We found 2 free ducks who were really good flyers.
Okay.
And like they actually, when they first came, they like stayed on top of the greenhouse the whole time, which seems like not a very comfy spot, right? When we built them a nice house with straw and whatever.
But it's away from predators.
We have to keep them in the safe house, right? Because their pen, even though it has a nice pond and a fence around it, it's not closed off. So, yeah. So, and then, so the one of our 2 new ducks flew away, and the neighbors, not these close neighbors who are wonderful, but some farther away neighbors complained about new farmers.
Right.
And,
new farmers lost their duck.
Yeah. Oh, and so unfortunately that one got hit by a car, and, but it didn't know us. It didn't know our yard.
It was new to you.
Yeah. And so of course, when they brought our duck that was hit by the car, they're like, you got to clip the wings. So we clipped their wings, and then the predators got them. So,
right.
So anyways, so don't have ducks right now. And we have lost 2 roosters to fox. So, cause we want the chickens to run around, right?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And during the days, usually fine. The dogs are out.
Right.
Right. It's usually no problem. And usually we're around.
Right.
Now if we go somewhere, we put the chickens in their coop.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not going to be a problem. So yeah. And it's like you say, like everything requires building. And like the first coop, the chicken run, Dave only built it 4 feet high, which I never understood, but he did it. And then he's like,
well, you know what? It was the same for us at first. It was just 4 feet high. And then all of a sudden one day one flew out and over the greenhouse. And we were like, I guess they do fly.
Yeah.
And then now it's all covered up.
Well, yeah, no, but 4 feet high covered for the chickens.
Oh.
So they were still protected, but then it wasn't easy for us to go in there.
No.
So now, Dave, we have an 8 foot high chicken run that we can go in. So we just like to create extra work. No, he hates that. He's like, I don't want to do it twice.
Well, you know what? That's the advice that I got from a homesteader like a couple years ago. And that was the thing he was telling my friend who was a new homesteader. And he was like, if there's one thing I can tell you, you don't want to do it twice. Just figure out what you want, your main plan, and do it right.
I know, but sometimes you don't know until you do it wrong. Until you do it wrong, then you're like, oh, this sucks.
And you can look it up on YouTube and they'll tell you all the things. But sometimes there's like one guy who's like, no, these ducks don't fly. And you're like, oh, ducks don't fly. And then all of a sudden your ducks fly. And you're like, well,
I guess they fly.
I guess we got to be prepared for them flying. So yesterday we had them loose in the yard, which we do, and they've got a little pool in the yard and they're all happy. The male's a jerk though. He comes after my dog. Like he comes after her. I've seen him fly all the way across the yard to come and get her, and she's like, ah! And she hides, and next thing you know, she's pinned in a circle, and I'm like, you big meanie. I take him, I get him out of there. But anyways, and he's attacked the cat. He attacks Mark all the time, and they tell you to grab him. Not me. But I come in, I'm already like, don't you try anything. And I protect my dog. I'm like, don't you come after my dog, okay? And I put my boot, like I hold my boot up like this, like, yeah. So yesterday they were cruising around, and these people that we know came over to hang out, have a little tea, and their dog and Ruby were cruising around the yard. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, my ducks are out. I'm like, well, how's your dog with ducks? She's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, let's go see if they're still alive. So I went, they were still alive. And just at that moment, the dog decided to chase him. So whatever, they go their separate ways. I find the male, I put him inside, and I'm going after the female, and she's getting away from me. She doesn't like me picking her up. So she is cruising up the landscape, but the dog decided to come after her from the other direction, which I thought she was going to hold on to her dog, but she didn't. So the dog comes after her, and the duck flies like further than I've seen her fly, and she doesn't know where she's going. She's at the end of the house, and I'm like, oh no. And the dog follows her. I'm like, oh no. And I see him cornering her, trying to get his mouth around her. And I was like, hey, get over here. And the dog was like, whoa, and came over to me. I'm like, can you hold on to your dog, please? Okay. And then I went to go get the duck. Usually she runs away from me. She came towards me and was like, okay, and let me pick her up. She's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if their wings were clipped, I bet one of them would have been in his mouth, in her mouth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, but the ocean, you could lose your ducks to the ocean. And I'm like, well, it's true.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, I guess, the risk that I'm going to take.
And that's partly, I mean, the lesson in homesteading with animals is it's a lesson in letting go. I mean, we rescued a pig the first January. There was a pig walking down the road in the blizzard.
In the blizzard.
Yeah. And Dave is an animal whisperer. So he's out there calling the pig, and the pig comes up to him. Well, before you know it, Dave has a pen built and house, but that pig did not want to stay. No. I mean, we fed it, we kept it warm, and it kept escaping. And I'm like, the message here is freedom or die.
Freedom. I'm going to showcase my shirt. Freedom.
I've got my shirt on too.
You do? Yeah.
Well, sovereign.
Be independent, autonomous.
So yeah.
So you had to let the pig go.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's like, your pig has escaped. I'm like, well, it's not our pig. We just saved it and we can't keep it here. So like, what do you want us to do?
Don't get mad at me. He's not my pig.
Yeah. So, and then we rescued a gosling. So actually the neighbors down the road found it on the highway. It was a little yellow puffball. And they named him Finley, and they kept him for 2 weeks, and he was growing really, really fast. And then they were planning vacation, and they're like, do you think you could take Finley? And we're like, of course. Well, Finley turned into a Canada goose.
Oh,
yeah. So we had Finley from July until I think September. And he had this thing, it's called angel wing. And it's, for some reason, the bone doesn't grow properly. Well, they say it's from malnourishment. And I think they probably were feeding them like Cheerios and bread, but they really need protein for them to grow properly. And we learned it too late. Like, you can tape it and you can make it grow properly. So again, he couldn't fly because his wing, he had this angel wing. And he got along so well with our dog, Luca.
Oh
Like
my
the two
gosh.
of them
Oh my
together
gosh.
were, I mean, he would peck
How
her face and pull her skin. And I
and the
mean,
dog
she would
was
just
cool.
sit there and take it.
Oh
And
my God. It's
yeah,
so
they were
great.
so great. And then one morning we couldn't find Finley. And I said to Luca, I'm like, where's Finley? And she led us right to the woods where there was a fluff of feathers. So again,
Something got her.
yep. Yep.
Smart dog.
She is smart. Yeah.
Smart dog.
Yeah. So yeah, letting go. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's going to be
Now
more
we
of
have
that,
a guardian
right?
angel goose.
Yes. Oh, that's so cute. Wow, I
Yeah.
can't believe you had a goose for a while. That's hilarious.
It was so hilarious. Oh my gosh. There are videos of that from last summer.
Yeah.
So
Do you have them up on your Instagram?
yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So you had Finley, you had some ducks. Right now you have chickens.
Yes. And we have 6 goats.
You have 6 goats.
Yeah.
I love goats.
Yeah. So
You
we
get them
started with
when
2.
they were babies.
We started with 2 and they were younger, like not super small.
Okay.
Because they have to wean, right? So you
Okay.
don't get them right away. Not like when you, like, actually our 5 goats are probably pregnant. So
Oh
we
my
will
gosh.
we're kidding, in April. So we could have, I mean, they always have 2, it seems. So
I guess, so here's my question with all of that. And this is the question that Mark asks me all the time. What are you doing with goats? Like, are they your friends or are you going to be eating them or something? What do you have them for?
So my thought was milking goats. So
Okay.
that is my plan. Of course, you can't milk a goat without them having babies.
Right. So now
So
you're going to get your opportunity.
Yeah. So we started with 2 goats and then we found 4 more and one of them was a male. So we brought the 3 home and then we didn't bring the male home until November because we didn't want to have babies in the winter. So we think he's done his job. And right now we are getting a baby barn built because we need a spot for them to be able to be dry and warm. Yeah. And so I want to try my hand at milking goats.
So you're going to milk a goat.
I'm going to milk a goat. I mean,
Dave
has made the milk stand.
Oh, really? Oh
yeah,
my gosh. He's ahead of the game.
He's really, he's really handy. And actually the place where we got, so we have 2 Nigerian dwarf goats and the male is a Nigerian dwarf. So it was amazing. Like he had over 100 Nigerian dwarfs purebred. And so in one room, there were 100 female goats.
Oh my gosh.
And he would go, peeps, peeps. And she would come to the gate. He would open the door. She'd come out and hop on the milk stand.
Wow.
And then like he'd
Come
give
on.
her grain, let her go. She'd go out a different door. And then he'd call the next one and it would do it. And I'm like, well, there's some lofty goals. So I'm trying to set up the baby barn, like will also be the milking barn, right? So I'm trying to set it up so I can have sort of that same flow and hopefully I can train my goats to do that.
That's so fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So then there are more mouths to feed, obviously. What do you feed them?
So obviously they're foragers, but we do give them hay, right? Because there's actually still quite a bit of snow right now. Hay, and then they get dairy goat pellets.
Okay.
So that is like their crack cocaine.
The dairy goat pellets.
Oh my gosh, they cannot, like you walk in with that, you are getting jumped on until you feed them to the goats. So that's what you'll give them when you milk them.
Okay.
Right? Because they'll do anything for that.
And extra, that's they're motivated by the treat.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, and I don't know. I'm really curious to see how goat milk's going to taste raw. right?
It's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to taste better than what you would get at the store. I love goat cheese, so I want to try making goat cheese.
Yeah.
I've just bought a bunch of stuff to make soap.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've got candle making stuff, soap making stuff.
So when you say they forage, are you going to let them just loose in your yard to eat all the grass?
So we used to do that. Like we would basically, they have their penned area and then we would take them out and walk them around the yard.
Okay.
But we don't want them in the garden.
Right.
So now we have a bigger yard for them.
Okay.
And so when we walk them sort of away from the house. I mean, they love Christmas trees. So like we cut down a Christmas tree if we don't want them to eat too much hay.
Really?
Yeah. And then they have the best breath. It's like, oh, that smells so nice when you do that. Oh, and that's the other thing. So that's the other thing we found out. So when we just had female goats, they don't smell. Oh, but that male, he loves his cologne, and his cologne is peeing on his face.
Get out of here.
Yep, that attracts the females.
How does one pee on one's face?
Just watch a goat. He has this big beard, and he pees forward, and he like just covers his face and beard.
Oh my God.
And then it's like, wow, now
what
we have,
a dirty animal.
We have stinky goats. And so that's the one thing they say when you milk a goat, like you don't want them anywhere near the males. That's what I've heard from our farming friends. So, and really you don't want them around each other all the time, right? Like as soon as they start kidding, the male's going to have to go into another pen, which is going to be hard because again, they're a herding animal, so they don't like to be alone.
Yeah.
But I think we just bought a cow.
What? What? Okay, so is the cow the same principle? We're just going to milk it?
Yes.
So you're going to have some more baby cows?
Because I really am worried that I'm not going to like goat's milk and goat butter. So
you're worried, so you went and got a cow. That's hilarious.
But no, so I've learned about this cow called a Dexter.
Okay.
So originally I wanted a miniature Jersey, right? Because they're the best milk cows.
Okay.
You get a miniature Jersey by breeding a Dexter with a Jersey. So Dexters are a smaller breed, like they're about half the size of full-size cows.
Oh, perfect.
So they're an Irish breed, and you don't need to give them grain. Like they're used to foraging in the grass.
Excellent.
And hay, like they don't need to have grain. Yeah.
Great.
So, and they're smaller, so they don't need as much space. They don't require as much to eat.
Well, technically, I don't think that any cow requires grain.
Yeah, well, I guess that's true, but I do think that most farmers do that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was just one of the things I read was they don't have to have it. So
and some of them just don't eat it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So
okay, cool. So it's a small cow.
And she's pregnant.
Oh.
Right? Because they have to be pregnant to have milk.
You're hilarious. So is it going to cost you a fortune in order for you to have your own goat milk? That's my question. Goat milk, cow milk, cheese.
Well, the goats aren't expensive, but the cow is.
Yeah, why is the cow more?
I don't know. I mean, so Dexters can also be meat.
Sorry, in terms of purchasing the cow.
Purchasing.
Okay. So after the purchase price, is it costly to feed either of these animals?
I'm honestly don't pay attention too much to that. That's the Leo in me, right? We just need to feed them.
Well, I wish that was Leo in me, but I'm the one who does the books. And I'm like, well, the dog and the cat. Well, first of all, I am the holistic mama. So everything gets fed well, right? I'm not going to feed, I'm sorry, but I'm not feeding my dog any kibble, and I'm not putting any kind of pesticides on.
Yes, we need to talk about raw food.
Yeah. So I buy her some bulk raw food, right? And I found a good supplier. He's super good to me. And I buy lots of it at one time. And that's great. And I feed them both the same thing. And then I make my own. So I make my own vegetables. I make my own chicken broth or any kind of broth, whatever. And then I add that to their food, right? And sometimes I'll
Yeah.
add like freeze dried meat on top just to get them excited a little bit, or a little bit of our dinner scraps on top, meat scraps.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the best fed animals on the coast. That's for sure. And so Mark's like, how much are you feeding these animals? I'm like, listen, there's like minimalized vet bills. I don't want to be taking them to the
And
vet. I don't want to be getting them sick. I don't want to pay for them to have an operation to take out part of their colon. Like, that's not going to be a part of our lives here. They're going to be happy. They're going to
yeah,
eat great food, and they're going to
yeah,
be as healthy as possible.
yeah. So I've started reading this book. Her nickname is Juliet of the Herbs, and
Herbs?
no, herbs, like
Herbs. Okay.
herbs.
Yeah.
So she was a holistic vet, like
Okay.
way back. I think she was born in the 30s.
Okay.
And never believed in any vaccinations.
Right.
She saved like a whole, I want to say herd, but that's not the right word, a whole group of Afghan puppies from distemper by herbal remedies.
Oh yeah, it's so great.
And then she started raising Afghans and like won best in show, all with what they call, so the term is called natural rearing.
Okay.
And so I've just been learning about her process.
Oh.
Right. So she
Love
says
it.
no frozen, no cooked, like raw meat.
So no
And,
frozen raw is what
right.
she's saying. You can't freeze it. It's got to be straight raw from the, well, like I've got my own limitations.
I know, right? Right. But this is where I think, well, because I've just thought about raising meat rabbits for the dogs.
I've been thinking about it too.
Because they're very easy and cheap to feed. I mean, I can't
they?
tell you how much leftover lettuce we had that we didn't eat this year, right? Which would be fed to the rabbits.
Right.
And then all of their pellets you use for immediate fertilizer. You don't have to wait for that.
Sure.
And they're so prolific, right?
Yes.
So,
but they don't just eat lettuce. They're going to need some substance in there. So we're going to have to feed them something for them to be meaty.
Yeah. So anyways, lots to learn.
We're considering rabbits, and like I said, we've come to the conclusion that we're getting chickens, right? So I know that I can feed the chickens lots of scraps. Yeah. That the ducks won't eat. The ducks won't eat very many scraps. Like they'll eat like lettuces. They love lettuces, and they'll eat like the tops of carrots and beets and things. But outside of that, like actual vegetable scraps, it usually just hangs out in their pen, and probably the mice come and get it after.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm feeding the mice. Maybe I should trap some mice. You know what?
Well, you have a cat.
That's what I should do. Yeah, but so the story here is we had like 50 cats.
Oh,
wild,
I recall
partially feral cats. Yeah. So the neighbor says that his daughter came with a cat, and next thing you know, there's a feral cat, and now there's 50 cats, and there's probably way more than 50 cats because they cruise around the land, right? So I have a neighbor who's maybe like almost a kilometer away, and he's like, "Oh, we have cats." He's not that many, but we have cats. And he's like, I don't feed them, but they keep the mice population down. I'm like, okay, great. But here it was overrun with cats. So when I say overrun, there was also the scent of urine. Oh, all over the deck, all underneath the house, and underneath the house, like the house is on like pylons or what have you. And so we store wood and whatever, and anything, if you put a tarp on it, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's going to be covered in piss. There's going to be piss on it. And Mark was really pissed off. Like, he's like, this isn't cool. Like, I don't want to have piss on my stuff. I'm like, well, that's fair. It doesn't smell very good. And anyways,
there's something worse happened. Than that smell.
Oh, it's so bad. And like, even though, so now they're cleared out. So something happened. There was an incident. They started coming, the SPCA started coming in from the mainland, and they started coming to pick them up. and they're really good. They come pick them up, they get them neutered, they give them all their shots, and they get them cleaned up for fleas and stuff. And then they send them to new homes. And if they can't rehome them because they're too feral, they bring them back. So they bring them back neutered or spayed. So we have at least one they brought back. So I'm like, great, bring them back.
Yeah.
Because we need them. We just don't want 50. And we don't want them to be prolific.
Producing.
Because they're constantly producing. Like a cat will be in heat like every month, right? And when she's in heat, she has like 5 to 9 cats following her around until they do their business for that week. And then she has more kittens. Like she's constantly producing kittens. Every 2 months, she's producing more kittens.
Wow, that is fast. I didn't know what their gestation was.
2 months.
Oh my.
Like 63 days or something. So 63 days, and then give her another 3 weeks and she's in heat again, and she's gonna So every 3 months she's having new kittens. So there's lots of kittens, as you can imagine. So we've rescued lots of them and we brought them over to the other side and stuff like that. But anyways, so the SPCA's comes, take them up, but now we have a mouse population problem. So I'm finding the mice in the chicken coop. They're drowning in their little tub. And I'm finding them, they're getting into the house, like the big house. They're not getting in here, thank God, but they're getting in the big house. So we're setting up traps. And these traps, sometimes in the morning, they're all full. And we're like, yeah. So the big house isn't like, it's on lockdown, obviously, but it's not in a place where all the nooks and crannies have been like inspected and sealed. So obviously they're getting in from somewhere, and that will hopefully be looked after sooner than later. But maybe I should just take them and make animal food. Hi, Dave.
She says, hi, Dave.
Hi.
This is Renee.
Hi, Renee. My wife's on a shopping spree from Amazon.
Yo, that's what I do.
Well, we need milk.
Yay,
it's cheese making supplies. Candle making supplies.
It's Christmas. And where else are you going to get that stuff?
Right.
As well get it delivered from the cabal.
Yeah. Soon we won't be getting any of it. So
exactly, get it now.
Yeah.
So bringing it around, I should make those mice into food.
Yes.
It's perfect cat food.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd feel better cooking it though, because I don't know what those mice have been
I don't
doing.
know.
I don't know what.
I mean, a wild cat's going to eat them, aren't they?
I'd say so.
So, yeah,
so
I don't know.
What do I do? Just give it to my cat dead? Like,
so when I'm sure
do.
There's a cat section in my book. It's dogs and cats. Oh. So I'll look at it and I'll let you know.
Okay. Because this could be a free source of protein for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should really do something about it.
So what's interesting about the natural rearing for dogs is like, so say you slaughter a goat for the meat for the dogs. The stuff you don't use, you hang up in a tree in a shaded spot.
Yeah.
Because that's what a dog would do, a wild dog. Like they're not going to eat the whole thing at once. They're going to go back, and their body is used to eating aged meat, not frozen, not cooked. Right. And also she said that a wild dog is never going to have meat every day. So there should be at least one day of fasting per week where they don't eat meat. So yeah, so it's interesting. I'm
very interesting.
A lot. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like us too. We're not supposed to be eating all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
supposed to have a little fasting in there.
Yeah. So and the dogs can have like an egg 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what? Tell me the name of that book again. Juliet.
Well, so I can't remember.
Herbs?
She has
Juliet.
She basically has a very long name, hyphenated. And so her nickname is Juliet of the Herbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Juliet of the Herbs.
If you Google that, you'll find information about her.
Okay,
yeah. And Amazon does have the holistic guide or the herbal guide to raising cats and dogs.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Very good.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm also trying to find ways to cut down on the cost of buying food.
Right.
Cut down on any costs, if you will. Costs are expensive.
I know. Yeah. So
Okay. So you've
Okay.
got some goats, you're going to make some milk, you're getting a cow, you've got some chickens. Are you stopping there?
well,
Where are you going to go from here?
So this spring we are getting meat birds and some turkeys.
What kind of meat birds? What does that mean?
So instead of a laying hen, you're getting meat birds.
Different.
And they like grow fast in like 3 months. So
are they like conventional birds? Are they jacked up? Are they on the juice?
Well, I don't know. You get them as chicks. So how could they be? Like you just feed them. I don't know.
No,
either.
I think that I think there's different varieties of birds. We were looking for somebody who raised their own chickens here so that we could buy from them rather than the market.
Mm-hmm.
And we found one lady, and she's not in season right now. And her birds were bigger than the birds that we get at the store by probably twice as much. But she was selling her birds for $40 a bird.
Mm. Mm.
And we were like,
wow,
we're going to be eating less bird if we start buying from her.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, why don't we have our own birds? And he's like, well, we can't possibly just feed ourselves, like have enough birds. We don't have the space to have enough birds to feed ourselves. And I'm like, okay. But one bird to feed us is more than 0 bird to feed us, right?
Exactly.
So why don't we start with a couple and see what happens?
Yeah.
And I think one of the main considerations was to get guinea fowl, which everybody's like, oh, they're going to be so loud. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. But we've got ticks up the yin yang.
Yeah.
Like I pulled 6 ticks off the dog yesterday.
Yeah.
And I shower her in essential oils. She has these special collars that are made, supposedly handmade to whatever. And some days it's better, but some days it's just not. Like 6 isn't, it's not okay. So these birds are supposed to come and they're supposed to eat all the ticks and all the stuff out of your yard. So I'm like, let's get them here.
So do you not think that the ducks do some of that?
They're supposed to do some of it.
Ducks do that. But yeah, guinea fowl, they recommended. But I even think our chickens are eating a lot of the ticks. So.
Well, also the guinea fowl are great for protection of the herd.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if a dog comes in like yesterday, she'll kick its butt, I hope. Don't you touch my duck.
Our friends who have a farm, they got 2 geese. And I wasn't afraid of the geese the first day. And they're beautiful. Like they're big. Like they'll almost come like a miniature swan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They'll bite you in the ass.
Big, huge white, super blue eyes with
orange.
What? Yeah, with orange and then orange beaks and feet. And they named them Luke and Carol.
Oh my gosh.
And Victoria will like sing to Luke and Carol and they love her. So I'm like not afraid. And then all of a sudden it's like doing this at me. And then it takes a butt, like it takes a pinch. And I'm like, okay, now I'm afraid of you.
Where did it pinch you?
They honk like on my leg.
And it hurt, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm like, now you have guard geese. So yeah,
they honk, the humans.
They honk and they come at you. So
I'm a little frightened for the dog. I'm a little frightened for the dog because right now the little tiny duck, he's a call duck. So he's like a small duck. He's not even a regular sized duck. Okay. Right. And he chases her and she just goes, like, I think it's partially my fault because I was like gentle. And I was really like training her, don't bite the duck, duck. I don't want it in your mouth. But now she's so gentle with everybody. She's gentle with the cat. She's gentle with everybody. So she's not going to bite it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he comes after her and she's like, oh, I don't want any part of this. This is too violent for me. She tries to run away. It's a very gentle dog.
You're not raising a guard dog.
She sounds like it though. I put her outside. She goes to the woods and we're like, wow, listen to that big dog out there. And then she comes in and she's like, I didn't hurt anybody, mommy. Yeah. No, don't worry.
That's awesome.
Oh man. Okay. So you have been in your home now for just over a year.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished so much.
A lot of fence building. Yeah.
So before you jumped on to becoming a homesteader, did you have any skills of such nature to bring with you?
I would say, I mean, only that I remember loving being on the farm, my grandparents' farm. I mean, I loved being on the farm, and it just got worse and worse as I got older. They had less and less animals. So until the end, they just had cows.
Right.
So,
and now
yeah,
you
but
like,
I wouldn't say I did have.
and now like, other than your little purchases from Amazon, you like make all your own food. I saw you like conserving your own food from your garden. So you grow your food, you make it, and you conserve it.
Yes, that's a lot. Yeah, summer is busy.
Yes.
I have a
I
whole
bet.
new appreciation for my grandma. I mean, she was an awesome cook and canned everything and made
So
everything.
you learned how to can, how
Yeah.
to
And
dehydrate.
I haven't done a pressure canning yet.
Oh, you haven't done. They're scary.
No, I'm only doing the water bath canning so far.
Okay, yeah, water bath is way more fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And also the dehydrating make things last longer. So
Well, I'm having difficulties with it. I'm going to be honest with you.
you are.
Yes,
Why?
they go moldy.
They do?
Yes. So I did this last batch for the dog. I made dog treats. So I bought like offcuts of meat, like really cheap stuff, basically, and liver bits and whatnot. And I cut them all like fairly proportionate, fairly the same. And I just threw them in there. And then I really left them for a long time. And I made sure that they were like almost breaking.
Crispy.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, well, let's try it out before I just pack it all away. Let's just put it in a Tupperware and feed her the treats, and we'll see how long they last in the Tupperware. And they lasted for like, I'm gonna say like 2 weeks, and then they got moldy. Now, is it because it was?
So I've never done meat.
Mm.
I've only done vegetables.
Mm-hmm. And then, so when you get the vegetables out and you put them do you put them in a jar?
I put them in a jar.
And what do you put?
I put
an
in the
jar?
absorber.
An oxygen absorber?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's oxygen and there's moisture absorbers. So you use oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is the thing, you have to make sure when you put them in, it's dry, right?
What's dry? The jar.
Well, the jar, but also the produce. Because when I first got my dehydrator and I dehydrated it and then I let it sit there in the dehydrator because I didn't get to it right away. Right. And then I was like, well, this doesn't feel right. It's like pliable.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like sitting out made it moist again.
Okay. So I was just going to say that made it moist again, or that just took a little time to let you know that actually wasn't quite done yet. No,
maybe.
It's just because
maybe.
Okay. So now what you do is you take them out and right away you put them in a jar with an oxygen absorber, and then you just leave them. And
and you have to make sure that it's also not hot, right? Because it will create condensation, the food.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Okay. So you got to make sure they're just dry
and cold. Yeah.
Okay. And then you've tested them, the ones that have been in your jars, and they're not moldy and they're still good.
Yeah.
Oh, huh.
I mean, because I sampled that. I borrowed a neighbor's dehydrator in Squamish before we left. And I dehydrated kale and spinach. And then I ground it up.
Yes.
Magic bullet. And then, then I have like a whole big thing of spinach in a little jar because we were in the trailer. I still have it.
Okay. And then what do you do with that ground mixture?
2 years almost.
Right.
So I just will add it if I'm making a sauce and I think I don't have enough vegetables, I just add the spinach and kale powder.
Yeah.
So
you could put it in a smoothie, you could put it in scrambled eggs, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's great.
Exactly. Yeah. Pasta.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you make lots of your own stuff like that now.
Yep.
Did you do that before?
No way. I never liked cooking. I mean, when I had my own business, I didn't have time. And I mean, that whole like trying to figure out what to cook, I hate that whole thing.
What?
So, yeah.
And now what's changed?
think necessity. I guess I'm passionate about making sure I'm eating healthy, so I know what's in my food, right? Because I am a label reader, and I've had issues with my thyroid, so that's a big thing. But I went off gluten, and but I've done enough with my diet to get off the medication. I'm not taking any medication, so yeah.
Yay! Great
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So.
And so I heard you had a sign in your kitchen.
Oh yeah. Yep. I made my favorite thing for supper,
Kitchen.
a reservation. Oh yeah.
I made my favorite thing for supper, a reservation.
And I never make reservations now.
Well, like, I don't know where, like, what's around you. Like, we can't. There isn't anything.
Yeah, no, you can't for sure. But we can drive, well, probably about 15 minutes. There's sort of a nice old inn in Liverpool.
Okay.
And then Bridgewater's about 25 minutes the other direction. And I mean, there's nowhere for reservations, but, there's some places to eat, but not like Vancouver.
No, most places aren't like Vancouver.
No. So, but even then, like, I think, so Dave was my best canary in the coal mine, because I don't know what he's allergic to, but if, like, lots of times when we eat out, and even if it was like fancy, expensive, he would come home itching his hands.
Oh.
And I've never got that before.
Mm-hmm.
So
it could be a very like common ingredient of like MSG or some type of like preservative of some type that is easily put on many different foods.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. When my daughter was 11, we went to Ecuador and the Galapagos, and she was also just diagnosed. They told her that she probably had celiac, like she had whatever the marker is. And at the time I wasn't sure. And, we started moving towards organic, right? Because they spray all the wheat with glyphosate Roundup before going to the mill. So when we were in Ecuador, I mean, they're all like, it's all farming there, but there's no factory farms because it's all on the side of volcanoes. You can't even have a tractor. And when you go to a restaurant, your meal takes a half an hour because they've made it fresh. And she ate pasta and pizza every day and never had an issue.
Oh, so I've heard this. This is not the first time I've heard this. So I am also gluten-free. Mm-hmm. I have been since I left nutrition school in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's the odd time where I've eaten it, had a bite of it by mistake, like in a restaurant where somebody comes back to the table and they look like they've seen a ghost and you're like, what? And they're like, oh, that burger. Oops, I gave you a real bun. You're like, oh. But that's only happened a handful of times. And yeah, I've heard the stories of this. People go away, they go to different places where GMOs are outlawed or there just aren't any and everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not cooking the same way as a restaurant in Vancouver where they need to keep the sauce for how many days or,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it might be the same thing with eggs too. So I'm allergic to eggs. So it's not a terrible allergy. Like if it's mixed into a muffin or something like that, I can have it, but I would never eat an egg. Right. And, but the theory, chickens, how they're being looked after, what they're being fed, et cetera, et cetera. And so maybe that's the problem. And a lot of them are being fed like wheat and garbage. And so now that we have ducks, which are not chickens, and we feed them, we do buy their pellets, to be honest. They don't just forage. But we're like, we should try and see if eggs are okay. Mm-hmm. So I actually had half an egg in a sandwich not very long ago to try and test it out, and it was okay. So I just get like bloated with that, if anything, and then I'll get sore, stuff like that. And I wasn't sore, I was bloated, but it could be something else. And it wasn't bad, and it was like a half an egg. That's more of an egg than I've had forever.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought I'd give it a little time, space it out
Yeah.
before I try it again and see what happens the next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no wonder you didn't really need chickens for the eggs.
No, Mark
You're
likes
not a
his
big
eggs.
right, but you don't. Yeah. So that's
No.
one of you, right?
Yeah. So if
With
anything,
eggs.
I could use them though to feed the dog and the cat.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the shells too, right? Grind up their shells.
Yeah.
And the little
Yep.
thing inside the shell, that little sticky bit, that's the most important bit. I make sure to throw that in their food.
Yeah. The collagen.
The collagen, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
See, we're all learning, aren't we?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Every day. So what do you think has been your biggest challenges then since you've been here? Your biggest learning challenges? The hardest things that have happened on the homestead.
Well, I guess the lesson in your animals don't last.
Lesson in letting go.
Lesson in letting go.
Yeah.
I mean, you need more fence than you think.
Buy more fence.
But that's more the dog.
And don't you have like 4 dogs now?
We have 3 dogs.
You have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave just got a new guitar stool, so he's pretty excited.
That is exciting.
Showing me right now.
Oh, yeah. That's exciting.
So it wasn't just my delivery.
My delivery was in there.
Everybody gets a delivery.
Yeah. Show her your.
Ooh, hey, that is a nice one.
So that's been cool here. Music is big here on the East Coast.
Is it?
And all of the like little community centers have like jam nights.
Oh, that's fun.
He's played guitar for a long, long time, but never, when he was driving, he never played.
Right.
And so it's cool. Like our friends, she is an amazing singer and she plays the guitar. And so they like go to the jam nights and practice.
So fun.
Yeah. So, it's Nova Scotia is different. It's almost like stepping back in time.
Yeah.
Like, people don't care what they eat here.
No.
No. The lady across the street, we help with like shoveling her driveway and stuff and stacking her wood. And she, I remember once she made us muffins and I said, oh, I don't eat gluten. And she's like, well, us here on the East Coast, we love our carbohydrates. I was like, it's not that I don't like them.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It's not that I don't want to eat your muffins.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm losing power. So I'm just plugging in.
Don't lose us.
Around. No, I'm plugged in now. Okay.
So are there other farm homesteads in the area or is it just you?
Yeah, nobody is doing this like we are.
No,
not close by anyways. So we have one neighbor right here who we can see and one right across the street who we can see.
Okay.
But then we have 11 acres in the other direction and then right on the water. So, the lady across the street, like she grew up here. So she's been in that house her whole life.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. The neighbors next to us, they moved here from Mexico, but they're from like Ontario and Alberta. So, they decided to, I don't know why that's not working. It keeps telling me low battery.
Uh-oh.
Do I black out when that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wiggle your connection maybe.
Wow. So anyways, nobody around us, but through Telegram, we've met some like-minded people. And so they are about
great.
15 minutes away. And the one couple, they're from Nova Scotia. They've had a farm for 30 some years. They had a commercial greenhouse. I mean, they're our go-to people. He's a butcher, a hunter, a fisherman,
Oh,
a
wow.
builder. Like, he just does everything. So we're so grateful to know them. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah. So he actually has like a commercial fridge. So people bring him deer in the season to, to butcher up. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
so
great.
Yeah.
I wish we had that here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're like trying to build community and find out who does what, and we're trying to get a community plan going so everybody does a little something different. Like my friend down the way's got some pigs. We're gonna have the chickens and the ducks now, but who's doing other things, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we just actually got in contact with somebody who's like really into the bartering thing, and he's developed this business where I don't know the specifics, but he brought in so much lumber and he has it for really inexpensive. And so, yeah, you can buy it from him for inexpensive. You can trade him for something. He's all about bartering. So we just connected with him yesterday. So we're like, oh, this is cool. So already he's like, oh, he wanted to know if we wanted a puppy. And we're like, no, but we can put the word out on our little community page. And he was like, oh, great. Do you guys need any seeds? And we're like, well, we're just talking about our seedlings and what we're going to do with that, like today or tomorrow. And we're like, yeah, we could definitely. And he's like, well, come on by. I've got this and this and this. And we're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Great person
That's awesome.
to know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bartering. Let's start the bartering, shall we?
Yeah. Somebody just sent me something about that. Like there's an Instagram page with bartering. Yeah. I forget what it's called. But okay. I just met somebody online, Iron Mountain Cabins from Cape Breton. So they're not close to us. They're really far.
Yeah.
And I mean, the lockdowns for them has been devastating. Like, I mean, every post, he's like tagging the premier of this province. And like, because the year that we moved here, they voted out the Liberals. And the premier, I think, is Tim Houston. The fellow from the cabin place, he's like, he was here right before he was elected in, and he was going to save us from the Liberals, and he lied through his teeth.
Oh,
right. Because, he said their business, so they have cabins, and so it's year round because they're also by snowmobile trails, down 85%.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, we were just talking to one of our suppliers for the giveaway that we just had, and the companies that we work with. And really cool thing of these companies so far, everyone that we've actually gotten to know a little bit better, they're on our page. They're selling survival gear. They're on our page. It's so really great. Now, this one, we just talked to him this morning, and he said he went to the NRA show, something to do with guns in the US show.
Yeah.
He said the attendance was record breaking, but the sales were 50% of what they were last year. So the industries are starting to see some decline, if you will.
Interesting here, because my husband and Scott, they went to the gun show here in Bridgewater, which is, like I said, 25 minutes away. And I mean, it was like an FU Trudeau gathering. So that was interesting.
I mean, I could see it in Canada, it being 50% of sales because the handguns just got banned. So there's no handguns to be purchased. There's no ammo to be purchased, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting times.
So just the other day, I was on your little book launch party on Zoom.
Yes.
So you're part of several other authors who have collectively come together and written a book.
Yes.
With the main author. And what is her name?
Her name is Sue Dumais.
Sue Dumais, and
Yeah.
you together wrote a book on healing.
Yes.
Healing arts.
I happen to have it right here.
Well, do you?
Yes.
Let's take a look at it. We are all healers. Ordinary people with extraordinary intention will heal the world. Amazing. The stories that I heard coming out of you and everybody else was pretty sweet.
It was pretty emotional.
It was emotional. It was emotional. How do you feel about having written the book?
Well, it's crazy because it's an international bestseller.
How is that possible? Like this just, she launched it what, on Friday?
Friday.
It's Monday.
I know. So
how is it an international bestseller? That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know how that works. But
okay. Well, my book's on the way.
I know that Sue is magical. She is an intuitive healer. She's my spiritual mentor. Like I said, I met her when I was going through my divorce.
How long ago was that?
That's over 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so she started a community called Heart-Led Living.
Yes.
And I joined it because it was only $15 a month. And she always used to, like, I met her, she was doing free intuitive reading calls on Thursdays.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if it was, yeah, right. I'm like,
yeah,
free. That's the right price.
Yeah.
And I had some really amazing breakthroughs with her. And so then when she started, so basically we'd have calls on Tuesday and Thursday. And Tuesday it was a call with her. And then Thursdays would be like the people she was mentoring. So they would be on the call. And so, they would be practicing their gifts or whatever. And, it's evolved over the years. Like, it's not been the same, but I've been there from the beginning. It's certainly a little more expensive now. And
you didn't get grandfathered in.
Well, I think a little bit, but she's also like, everything for her is guidance.
Yes, like, you can see
whatever the price is for somebody, it's just guidance. Everything, like, even though she is gifted and she can read things that's happening with you, like, she is really a healer. Sometimes she's not guided to share that, right? Sometimes you're not, she's not guided to heal somebody, right?
Sure.
So that's part of the learning too, right?
Yeah.
Like, is this person's meant to hear this? And the book is really about all of us who understand the energy of being a healing presence everywhere we go. So, even if you're at the grocery store or wherever and, somebody's having a bad day, like, you just taking the time to listen or, make them smile is a healing opportunity. So
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, she's been amazing. And for me, the scariest thing I had ever done was start my business. And so I hired her as my business coach. And she took me from living in fear to trusting. And
oh, wow, that's great.
And faith. So it was a fascinating journey for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's sort of the way I want to live my life, is how she taught me to run the business. Is, I think the old way, the masculine way of, we're going to make this work. We're going to attract everybody. No, I just want to attract the right people.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
I don't need to sell everybody
to
come to my business.
There's a woman who speaks to that. I can't remember her name, but she is the owner of Spanx. She's well known out there. And she jumped into like a man's world, and she was in like a mastermind class, and it was all men except for her. And they were like, right away, they were warning her, and they're like, oh, business is war. This is your first time business. Business is war.
Oh, I got shares.
It was like, yeah. And she was like, I went home one night and I was like, I don't want it to be war. This isn't what I want. Like, why does it have to be war?
Yeah.
And so she was like, she checks in. She just tunes in and she's like, I don't want it to be war. So what does that mean for me? And then she said she was sitting around she was sitting around their mastermind group and they were talking about a specific number, like what's the number that you're gonna get to, or whatever it was. And they were all like, oh, this. And she went, I'm really gonna have to check in with the universe on this one. And they were like, okay. And she said slowly over the years, and she would go home, she would check in with the universe and be like, what does this mean for me? Like instead of doing a calculation, she would check in. And slowly, she said, over the years, they've all come to her, all the men inside her little group would come to her privately and be like, how do I check into the universe? How do I ask the universe for that?
Wow.
She's wildly successful.
Yes.
And she does not go to war. She does
Right.
not battle for her success, right?
Yeah.
So she
Yeah.
has lots of different talks about that, and it's really lovely to know that someone is that way, led by intuition and heart and vision, but you don't have to be hustling. I hate that. I've come to hate the term of hustle. I don't want to do that, actually.
No, when I turn 50, my motto for this decade is ease and grace. Right? I'm done
so
hustling.
Much better than
rushing
hustle.
the kid to school, rushing to work, all of that.
Yeah, done it. I've done the
Yeah.
hustle. I've done the different businesses where I've hustled. I've logically thought this is what I need to do, and it didn't feel good and it didn't work out well, and I'm overdoing it. I'm done doing that.
Yeah.
I'd rather
it's nice
be
being
led
on the homestead.
Let's be led with what feels right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which way are we moving because it feels good?
Yeah.
Yes. It is really nice being on the homestead.
Yes, it really is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I also, like, when I think back of being locked down, I was super lonely, even though my husband was home. I mean, I used to hate that he was never home. And because he didn't follow any rules. So him and his buddies were always getting together, and they were working on trucks, and, so he was living his grand life. And I was like at home with a teenage daughter who I love immensely. But, she's a teenage daughter and she didn't really want to hang out with me. She did when she felt sorry for me, but.
Okay, Mom, I'll hang out with you. Yeah. Exactly. Are we done? Are we done yet?
She wasn't bothered by being home, but I was super, really missing being at work. And now, I mean, I'm pretty darn happy to never leave the homestead. It's so weird. I've really changed.
Yeah. That's yes. So I heard that you were did you do a lot of traveling before?
Yes, we loved traveling. So, I mean, we were supposed to go away right before we were locked down. We had 2 trips planned to Cuba and Mexico. And I mean, not that I don't think that's traveling, that's a vacation, but
sure.
When we went to Ecuador, my daughter was 11. I said, this is not a vacation. This is traveling. We had backpacks. We had the first 2 nights booked. We had nothing else booked after that.
That's exactly my way of doing it.
Yeah. So, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then, I've spent, I was in Costa Rica. God, I don't even know how that was in the 80s. I spent 2 months there in 89. I lived in Paris for 3 months in 85, studying French.
Did you retain any of it?
Oui, je parle français un peu, mais pas très bien.
Un petit peu. C'est
bien. My daughter was in immersion. She speaks much better than I do.
Really?
Yeah. So, and then what other trips? Oh, I spent 2 months traveling around Europe in a Volkswagen van.
Fun.
That was amazing. We went to Russia. It was amazing. So
things are a little different now that you have a homestead.
Yeah, we ain't going anywhere. And as our friends say who have the farm, well, if you have one animal, you may as well have them all because you can't go anywhere.
I have to say that is the thing that made me I don't know, like I don't want to say like rethink the situation, but it took me some time to like settle into that aspect of it, because I didn't have a dog, I didn't have a cat, I didn't have anything for a number of years. I didn't even have a place to live half the time. I rented my condo out. I was just free.
Right. Yeah.
And like right before the lockdown took place, literally right before, I came home from 2 months away in Panama and Costa Rica. And so I had a plan to outfit my truck and drive across the border and visit every country until I hit Costa Rica again and hang out there for some time. That was my plan. And I would pick up a stray dog along the way. And then obviously that didn't happen. They closed the borders and I was like, I think it's time for a new plan. Yeah. So I had to pivot
plan. I mean, a plan. What do they say? Best laid plans.
Wow. Like the universe is like,
yeah, we have the plan that you don't know.
You think you're going to drive across the country. And what's funny is that my mom and dad, especially my mom, they're very much travelers. And I can go to Thailand by myself and they're like, see you later. And their friends are like, wait, what? And she's like, oh, she'll be fine. And then I was like, I'm going to drive across the country and through all these countries. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, no, what? Yes, I am. And she's like, I don't think you should. Well, don't worry about it, Mom, because it didn't happen anyway.
Yeah.
But, then I was like, we're going to get a dog. And then the dog was the first animal that we got. And it really freaked me out. I got the like, oh my God.
Because you don't have children, right?
Down. I don't have children.
So I went through that when I got pregnant. I never get to do what I want when I want ever again.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine. Depression for a long time.
There's a reason why I didn't have children, because I was afraid of that. And so the dog brought it all home. I was like, oh, this is why I didn't have children. I'm freaking out, because I'm not the type where, if I decide to change things, I'm just going to give the dog away. I would never do that.
Yeah.
If I choose something, that's because I commit.
Yeah.
So the dog really freaked me out. And then I was like, what if I don't like the dog? I'm like, this is so much responsibility to have a dog. And then I was like, I love this dog.
Right.
I can't go anywhere anyway. And then we rescued a cat. And then, first of all, the ducks came. And then we're like, you know what? I will tell you, we had a traveling circus act. So for the first little bit, we were kind of moving back and forth a little bit to our home in the city. And we got these ducks. And we just rescued the cat out of the backyard, and we've got the dog, and we had to make a trip to the city. We had to go down there, and we're like, the duck pen is not finished. It's not electrified. We can't leave the ducks here by themselves for 5 days. It's not going to happen. Obviously, we can't leave the other animals here by themselves. So we took them on the road. We had a puppy and a kitten inside the truck, and we had 2 ducks in the box. And we cruised around with ducks everywhere. Like, how crazy. What else are you going to do?
You were able to be a gypsy with all those animals.
We're like, and then we'd get on the ferry and you could see the guy who's like ushering people, and he'd be like, do you have ducks in there? Like, yes, we've got ducks. It was wild. And then we had to go to the Okanagan, which is far. And I'm like, we can't bring the ducks to the Okanagan. This is insane. And so I called my friend who's also got a homestead. And I was like, do you want to take some ducks for a few days? She's like, yes. I can't wait to take your ducks. I'm like, oh, thank God. I wanted to leave them with her. They had such a nice little pen. I was like, just keep them. I don't know. They seem pretty happy here.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I'm a gypsy at heart, and having a kid just curbed that. I mean, she's amazing. You loved her.
But then you loved her.
She's amazing. I wouldn't change anything, but it's totally changes your life. And so, I mean, here we are again, but I'm not bothered this time. So weird.
Yeah. Like I'm not bothered anymore.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
you
gonna say
still
that.
had to go through that. I mean,
I had to go through
mhm.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes some
Yeah.
time. And now I'm like, well, whatever. It is what it is. Where are we gonna
Yep.
go? And then my friend just asked me, my friend's gone to, she's leaving for Thailand and Taiwan. And she's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I'm like, but I won't. Yeah, I can't
Well,
do it.
this is, I mean, it's so like, I love that people are like living their life right now. I mean, I think that's what we have to do no matter what is coming. And at the same time, when is the shoe going to drop? I mean, you know, there's all these banks not doing well in the States right now. And,
You were reading
you know,
upon that last night.
So
I think now is the time. If ever there was a time, now is your time to do all of the things. Just go do them right now. Go do them.
yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, I want to come home and have some preparedness so that I'm ready for whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, let's go and explore. Let's go and check out that new town not too far away. Let's go, if you get an opportunity to go take a flight for a little bit, go do that thing.
Yeah, I
Just
can't
in
leave the
case.
farm.
Yeah. Well, you did. You went to Vancouver not very long ago.
I did. And that was
For a week?
exhausting. It was like 7 days, 6 days, I think. Yeah. It was exhausting. Again, I was, you know, helping at the office, at my dental office, and, you know, working at the wellness show. And
just
like,
all kinds of stuff that you haven't done in a long time.
I cleaned teeth.
You did?
I cleaned my parents' teeth and
Ah.
my business partner's teeth. So
Oh man, I would have come down just for that. If you told me I have time to clean your teeth, I would
people were asking, and I was like, oh, I don't have time.
Next time, put me in your roster there. Renee would like to get her teeth cleaned. Yeah, me and Mark. I'm in.
Okay.
But yeah, it was exhausting. For just a week.
Just a week.
And Dave did well with the animals by himself.
Yes. He missed me, but yes.
Of course he did. Who made his meals?
Right?
What do they do when
Didn't
we're not
even
here?
know how much I did.
Now he does.
Yeah. He's already taking it for granted again.
Well, yeah.
Don't we all?
I'm sure, like you, he does all kinds of stuff out there outside.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. He is really, I mean, he's more motivated than I am. Like he is somebody that just does stuff.
Oh, wow.
And he wants to get it done.
Great.
I know. I mean, I'll tell you, when we were first dating and we took the kids skating up on Grouse Mountain, and the pond was covered with snow. He shoveled the pond. I'm like, who does that? And he's like having a great time doing it. You know, he's wearing his skates and he's shoveling the pond. I was like, there's somebody who's not afraid to work. So, yeah.
Jack.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
so here's a really personal question, maybe. So Dave is no longer truck driving. Is that correct? Or does he go sometimes? Right. He's no longer doing it.
No, he has a driver on his truck.
Okay. So he rents out his truck essentially.
Well, he pays a driver to drive his truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he finds loads and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how are you guys surviving both being at home? Is it easy? Do you have a source of income?
So I get, because I'm a partner in the business, I do get a monthly, amount, which is a nice passive income for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful for that, but I don't know what's going to happen with the healthcare system in BC.
Right.
So
we're in rocky grounds.
Change. Because Bonnie Henry just said now they're not getting rid of the mandatory vaccinations. And
what? When did she say that?
Oh, after the public sector got their jobs back. So government workers got their jobs back, but they
Healthcare did
said
not.
no.
No. And now that
so
they've come out
they're
and
coming
said,
and then now they're coming after the private health sector,
yes,
right? So they're able to do that with the public sector. So if that mandatory vaccination happens, I mean, I can't have a license.
right. And they're grouping the colleges together under one or a few umbrellas, so to make that a lot easier for them to be able to dictate and control.
Yes, exactly. Like we don't vote in our, like we used to have our own college, we would vote in our board. Now they're going to appoint the board members for the whole complete dental college, which that includes the dentists, the hygienists, the assistants, the denturists. I thought there was something else, but anyways.
Yeah. So, and it's across the board with all of the other alternative Chiros, type of care in BC.
Yeah, naturopaths, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And now that they've made it clear that the vaccine doesn't work, they're still going through with it.
I know, right? I mean, that makes no sense when you can still transmit it and get it.
Which they're very clear about.
Why would you need it then for work?
In some of the governments, I don't think it's here, they're coming out with an apology for the mandates. So it doesn't sound like it's BC. I have to look at
and not Nova Scotia either. I mean, the health minister here in Nova Scotia went around the whole province and they did about 15 like public meetings. And at every meeting they said, why aren't you hiring back the unvaccinated? And she said, we've got that question at every meeting. We don't have an answer, but that's our policy and we're sticking to it.
Oh, good.
Yep. I see the science
dig
there.
Your feet.
Yeah, I see the science.
Yeah. Why don't you show me your science that you keep talking about? You know that science? Why don't you show that to me so I can take a look at it for myself? Yeah. Okay. So you guys each have a source of passive income right now, which is amazing.
Well, so the other thing that Dave does, first of all, during the convoy, Dave had a truck driver friend in Manitoba, who was the leader of the Manitoba chapter for the convoy. And when he was in Ottawa, he phoned Dave and he's like, can you start dispatching trucks? Because I don't have time. So he was doing it. He was doing it for him. He's not doing it for him now, but he is doing it for this other company. So so he makes a percentage for every load that he puts on a truck. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah,
very good. Because I think that's a question that a lot of people would like to know. How do I just leave my city job? How do I leave the city and start a homestead? Like, what do I do for money?
I know, right?
Right. Are you planning on doing anything with your homestead in terms of sales? Like, are you going to sell your goat cheese?
I mean, that might be a bartering tool later on. But I feel like the guidance has been for me to create some kind of healing retreat here.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't really know what that looks like. I'm just following the steps one by one. On the back of the garage, we have a place that could be a suite. So we're working on building and turning that into a suite that we can rent out.
Oh, so good.
And I completely believe that nature heals. So, animals, all of those things. I took a horse guided healing course, this last year.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I think it could be applied to all animals. But maybe someday my horses are coming.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Wow. I got shivers with that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we just don't really know what's going to happen, right? I feel things are going to get worse before they get better. So
I'm on that page.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's such a question, you know, do you build a rental tourism suite? And will there be tourism?
Will there be any?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when you talk
But,
to that fellow up north in Cape Breton, he's like,
yeah,
you know, he's struggling.
Right. But that is his full-time business where he makes all of his money. So for
Right.
you, it's different. And also it could end up being something different. So for example, if you have that suite right now that you're working on in your garage, that could be somebody who lives there full time. But then the retreat that you're talking about, depending on how you lay it out on how it works, maybe there's going to be people that need a place to live and they come and work on your farm.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
like we don't know
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, who's going to be around, you know, like how we can be part of this community more, better.
Yeah.
And who's going to be put on our path.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we really like to do is ask to have the right people placed in our path. And on several occasions, not only has it taken place, it has like literally happened where we ran into someone on the path around the lake, for example, cruising. We weren't even supposed to be there. You know how it goes. We just decided, oh, you know what? Let's just keep going down this path for a little bit. Yeah. And we ran into a guy. And because of the shirts that I make, Mark was wearing a sweatshirt and it said mandate freedom or something like this. And we ran into a major freedom fighter, and he just right away saw the shirt and he was like, oh, I like your shirt. And he continued talking to us because he's like, no, like, I really like your shirt. And we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so since then, he's become like one of our new best friends, one of our community. Right. He lives, he's a film guy, comes from film industry. He lives just down the road, and he is like the most prepped survivalist kind of person, like with skills. He has the most amount of skills in this department than anybody that I've ever met. He's trained. And so we're like, oh,
you met the right guy.
Could we have met anybody else on the path? And not only that, like, he's come to help us here in the last week and a couple weeks before that with the house. Because he comes from film and has so much experience with his hands, he's like, oh, I can help you with that. And he called in an electrician that he knows. The electrician came in and they've been working on the house together. What a blessing.
Yeah, totally. So
if we could have the right people placed in our path to help us
with
all
grateful.
the things.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can help them with whatever it is that we can bring to their table.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'm all over that.
And when somebody leaves, somebody new enters.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, is such a lovely time speaking with you today. Where can we find you? Tell the people where to find you.
Well, the biggest thing for the farm, I have an Instagram account called The Little Farm by the Sea.
Excellent.
And
she posts all kinds of beautiful videos there and like pictures of her beautiful greenhouse and all of the things.
Yeah. And all of the kitchen work that I love to do now.
Yes. The food stuff. I love it.
Stuff. And I feel like, you know, I'm kind of a few different people, but on the farm account, I just love sharing how I want the world to be.
Okay.
You know, so I'm not very political or discussing conspiracies like I am on my Happy Hygienist page.
Oh, you'll keep that for the business page.
Well, and you know what? You know, early on Facebook, I posted a lot of things, and there was a lot of fighting on Facebook. And I got a message from a friend. She said, you know what? I just posted on stories now on Instagram, and I don't have those fights anymore. And I was like,
oh, I see.
Because, you know, I understand. I mean, I love discourse, but at the same time, neither of us are convincing each other of the other way.
No, I agree.
So,
I agree.
You know, so as much as I want to help people, we see things differently, and that's okay. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like half the time, if you are discussing something political anyways, you're speaking to the choir.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I know. It's good to have it out. It's good to have a discussion once in a while, but we don't have to talk about it all the time.
No, that's right. Exactly.
Let's focus on the things that we want.
I mean, I believe that's the thing, right? What we focus on is what we create.
Absolutely.
That is an easy principle in spirituality.
Mhm.
And, you know, when they were shoving COVID down our faces every day, I mean, that is creating the reality.
Mhm.
So, you know, even when I have friends who believe differently than me, who I've met here, I don't even want to talk about it.
Mhm. Well, no.
I just don't even want to talk about it. Like,
No.
like, let's just live.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially I feel like during this time right now where we're not, even though there's lots of things going on, in the news, there's lots of things getting thrown out there. There's no real, like, my life isn't changing right now at this moment.
no.
Unless I talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
So and then, you know, what we say here is we're on this side of the water. It's not here unless we bring it here.
Right.
So let's just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty easy to leave it. I have to convince the other ones.
Oh, him too. Like, he's constant watching. I'm like, can we turn that off now? I mean, the TV's still going all day.
Oh, we don't even have one.
Well, you're lucky. I mean, I like watching shows.
So my mom, we were over at my parents' place and TV was on. And Mark was like, oh, wow. Like, wow. I haven't looked at a TV so long. So he was just like, you can't have a conversation with it on, right? It just grabs your attention. You can't help it. It's just there. So he was looking at it, and I guess mom caught him. And mom told me later, she's like, why don't you get Mark a TV? And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, he was looking at, like, it looks like he was really enjoying it. Maybe you should get him one. We had a good laugh over it. And we're like, well, we actually have several TVs. They're just not put up, and we don't subscribe to any of the, so we don't, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you get him a TV so that you can be programmed?
Well, it's so fascinating. We're watching, I mean, we love Yellowstone, that series.
Huh? Mm-hmm.
And we're watching one of the prequels, which is 1923.
Oh.
And it's just so interesting, the corruption of the wealthy. I mean, it's so parallel. So parallel. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that show. 1923.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's
okay.
Good.
Well, let's go check you out at the Little Farm by the Sea.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us for our first podcast, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you, Kim, for being here. So fun.
Thank you.
My new Leo sister. I really enjoy speaking to you.
Me too.
Finding out what you're all about. And we can
weirdly
find more.
Both from BC, and we met when we lived across the country from each other.
Yes. Yes. How long were you in BC for? Like ever?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for well, as soon as I graduated over 25 years.
Yeah. There's plenty of time where we could have met. I met Kim because I was following her Instagram somehow. And
because I was following
farm.
Mark. I was following Mark Shaman Chronicles.
The Shaman Chronicles.
On Facebook.
Yes.
And so I knew what you were doing. And then he was like, you should follow Journey of Jewels. This is what we're doing up the coast.
So Journey of Jewels is my Instagram account where I showcase like the farmstead, the homestead, and all the rental work that we're doing. Yes. Yeah. And then so from there, then you must have followed me. I must have checked you out. And I was like,
I did some comments.
She's got a farmstead.
And then you didn't comment for like months later.
Because I would like never use Instagram. I'm that old person who uses Facebook. But I'm getting better.
I'm trying to get away for that one. Because I do like Instagram better.
You know what I would like to do? I would like to turn them all off. That's what I would like to do.
And that might happen. we might be forced to all do that.
It's true. But
So.
For these businesses, this is what. So I'm like, okay, let's just be regimented. Then we're using it for the businesses, and we're not sitting here scrolling on it all day because we're wasting our time. So I'm getting better. I'm growing the Instagram thing. It's happening. And the Facebook thing is fun though. The group is fun. There's lots of interaction. That's why I like it better, because there's way more interaction with the posts. People are talking to each other. People are posting themselves. Like, people go on to the group page and they post something cool that they find. I'm like, well, this is fun. And then everybody talks about that. Whereas Instagram, like, none of that is happening for me.
Yeah.
You have a lot of conversation though.
Yeah. And I was avoiding Facebook for that reason, because of the people who disagreed with me.
Gotcha. Well, in my group, the Survival Chicks, like, my group.
Yeah, I know. It's our people.
If they're going to be disagreeing with me, this is going to be silly.
Spoken like a true Leo.
It's supposed to be the like-minded in there, right? Yeah, it's okay if we have different views, but we all need to be respectful at the same time.
Yeah, no. But as you said, preaching to the choir in that group.
Yeah. Exactly. But we're sharing. The whole purpose of the group began so that we could share information with each other, so we could feel,
because we're all learning.
Yes, and we could all feel more maybe prepared, or know that there's other people out there like us, and could find some solace in that. That's how the group actually started.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so find us there. This recording is going to be there with all the other ones that are going to be coming up, as well as on the website, which is survival-chicks.com.
Yeah, I might have to have a farm one on Facebook.
A farm what group?
Like
farm
page.
What?
Like a page.
Do it.
And then I can join the Survival Chicks there from there.
Oh,
I mean, I am on there.
I know you're on there. Yeah. You're just not really on there.
Yeah.
On there. But you know what? I looked you up on Facebook for the farm, when I was trying to find you the first time, the little farm by the sea. And there's somebody else who has that on Facebook, and it's not you.
Yeah.
So there's that. Unless it's just a little tiny bit different and I didn't notice the difference, but I was, I found them and I was like, I don't think this is her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I only have Facebook on one phone. I don't have it anywhere else, to try and keep myself off of things.
Do you have several phones?
I have two. Well, I had one for work and personal one. And this phone that I'm on a phone with you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a phone capability anymore. But it was my work phone.
It's just the internet now.
It's just the internet. Yeah.
It's the internet's.
It's my little iPad.
Little
my handheld iPad. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, Kim. Okay. What are you up to today? To you.
I don't know. There's a lot of little projects. And the sun is shining. Supposedly tomorrow there's a big storm. So
the sun is shining here too. So maybe let's get outside.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Excellent. So lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. We'll see you out there.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye.